Okay, so we're going to talk some more about communities. Communities can refer to people, they can refer to communities of animals, also of plants. Plants aren't usually talked about in the form of communities because they don't really have as much interaction and movement and behavior as other communities might, but they do move and they do behave. We're familiar with plants' movement in the form of phototropism, which is plants moving towards light. It's a lot more complex than we might think. The shadier regions actually secrete a hormone, and that causes the plant to grow, and that causes it to move towards light. They react in all kinds of other ways. These are some bean plants reacting to aphids. This one in the middle over here is like, help, I'm being attacked by aphids. And it secretes these volatile organic compounds, and the other plants can detect them, and they decide to secrete these chemicals that repel aphids. Similarly, this is the wild tobacco plant, and it can often get attacked by these big caterpillars, these hornworms, and it's able to secrete a chemical that attracts a bug that eats the caterpillars. So there's lots of different communication going on. Also underground, not just above ground. On the left here is a plant called knapweed, and that secretes chemicals out through its roots, and it actually attacks other plants around it and invades huge areas. But lupin is able to secrete a chemical through its roots that combats that. This is a plant called sea rocket. This was studied by a woman named Susan Dudley in 2007. She planted sibling plants next to one another and then stranger plants next to one another. And the sibling plants had more friendly roots. They were shallower, they shared stuff, they shared nutrients. The plants that were strangers kind of had more aggressive, longer roots. Similarly studied by James Cahill, he did time-lapse videos of plants honing in on nutrients. So they would have plants with their root structures and put some food off to the side and measure how long it would take for the roots to hone in on the food. They would actually speed up and then slow down to digest the food. And this is another study that was done with fir trees in the forest. The large trees are able to distribute nutrients out through the networks to help out the smaller trees. So there's lots of different ways that plants are able to communicate. They do so above ground with these organic compounds. They do so below ground with their roots. And with the roots, it's not just their extensive root structures, it's also with the help of mycelium. So attached to tree roots are all these different networks of mycelium, and there's all different kinds. These are communities in and of themselves, these living communities. And so some might attach plants that are similar, some attach plants that are different from one another, but it connects the plants in a region, in a forest, in an ecosystem. These are just some different mushrooms that I've found on hikes that I've gone on. These are we're a little closer to what we're familiar with in terms of fungi. These are the fruiting bodies of mycelium. So mycelium is this underground network, and when they sprout fruiting bodies, they are mushrooms. But this also happens underground. So the mycelium that's in the symbiotic relationship with the roots actually embeds itself into the cell walls of the roots and creates fruiting bodies, creating this mycorrhizosphere. And so this is all happening underground. It's pretty incredible. This is me. I was in Washington, D.C. at the Botanical Gardens, and they had an exhibit on roots. And I love roots. I was so excited to discover this. And there's so much going on underground. Look at these grasses. They've got them like tied up. They're so long. There's so many roots below the surface. And what's really amazing to me is that these roots combined with the mycelial networks are actually creating action potentials. They're sending electrical messages to one another. And this is exactly what happens in the human brain. This picture down here is a diagram that was created to explain those signals in the brain. And so, yeah, we've got a neuron over on the left. The action potential is created in the cell body. It receives signals in through the dendrite, sends the action potential out through the axon, and they come in all different shapes and sizes, these neurons, and they're very organic looking. This you might think is mycelium, but it's actually glia, and glia is what supports the neurons in our nervous system. It was originally thought to be just a supportive structure, but recently in research it's been found to do a lot more to actually help neurons communicate. So recent research has opened a lot up in the world of plants and how we know them. It opens a lot up about what plants are really capable of. Sometimes we take them at face value and we examine what's only on the surface and less of what's under the surface. But this guy, his name was Cleve Baxter, and in 1966 he decided to hook up his house plant to a polygraph machine. He worked for the CIA and had a polygraph machine. And he was like, I'm gonna hook this thing up and I'm gonna just think about lighting it on fire. So that's all he did. He just thought of lighting it on fire, and apparently it registered on his polygraph machine and like sensed emotions or whatever. And anyway, that's what they say. But it's not totally out there because the whole plant is wired for electrical signals. It's got these, they've determined that the signals are carried through these phloem cells here. Those go through the vascular networks and up into the trees. And so, yeah, I just urge you to, when you're walking around in the park here or in nature somewhere, underground, above you, all the plants around you, just be open to all the plant conversations that are going on. Thank you.